back to the GamecockScoop.com podcast. We got a very special episode here today. I'm talking to Florida transfer tight end Nick Elksnis, who recently announced his commitment to South Carolina just a couple of days ago. Thanks for coming on, Nick.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was wondering how you landed on South Carolina as a potential portal destination, and of course, you visited this past weekend. Definitely want to know how that went. But like, what intrigued you about South Carolina in the first place? How'd you make contact or whatever?
Well, I found out very quick when the portal opened up that it's not like high school recruiting where you've got all these coaches reaching out to you. It's very select. It's portal is more for coaching staffs to be able to get like one or two pieces that they need. It's honestly it's like free agency. So I looked in South Carolina had both tight ends had entered the portal. So I was like, this is a great opportunity for me because depth is lacking in the tight end room. So that was one of the first things that intrigued me about South Carolina.
Definitely. Which I mean, you've been at Florida for 2 years, right? So you've seen
Yeah.
South Carolina both of those years as well. Was there anything about the visit that kind of convinced you to lock things in from there, other than just obviously seeing the absence in the tight end room?
Yeah, I went there and there seemed to be a much better culture there than the previous location that I was. I'm never going to talk bad about those guys. I loved my time there. I just needed a fresh start, and I could tell by just the positivity of the coaches during practice and the players that it wasn't a normal atmosphere of a college program. They seemed to be excited out there on the field, like they were happy to be there, and there was a good working relationship you could tell between the coaches and the players, and that was something that made me very interested in the place.
Awesome. And then I assume on that visit you got to interact with Jody Wright, Dowell Loggins, and Shane Beamer. Can you tell me a little bit about those interactions and your relationship with those guys?
Yeah, so I mean, Coach Wright, absolutely love him. Looking forward to working with him. He's a super good guy, super knowledgeable, and I mean, he and I get along well. We got a lot in common. Coach Coach Dow, I mean, he's new. He was out on one of the campus tours with us because he's like, I still haven't seen the campus yet. But I got to talk to him a lot more because he was just kind of observing. He's not, I believe he's not coaching for the bowl game. He's just kind
Right.
of observing, seeing how things work right now, what he's going to do to change. But I mean, just hearing his philosophy as a coach and not only like X's and O's, but talking to him about like how he likes to develop like his players off the field too was super important to me. And then Coach Beamer, well, he recruited me when he was the tight ends coach at Oklahoma, so I knew him through that. And then um, I've always had a good relationship with him. Like even when he was recruiting me at Oklahoma, he was super positive. I enjoyed talking to him always. And then I got to South Carolina, and it was like no time had passed. It was, how's your family doing? Like, and knew both my parents by name, and that means a lot to me. Like, so I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to getting to know them better and getting to start working with them.
That's really cool. I actually didn't know that he had recruited you previously as
Yeah,
well. So yeah, I mean, really, all three of those guys have background with tight ends too, right? Like Loggins just had 2 seasons as Arkansas's tight end coach, and then, like you said, Beamer was tight end coach at Oklahoma. So is that something that was kind of attractive to you too? Just there seems to be an
yeah,
emphasis on tight end.
absolutely, absolutely.
Um, can you update us a little bit on your injury situation? I know I was reading up. You missed several games this season with like an upper body injury. Is that something that is pretty much fully healed at this point? Or
Yes, I fractured my shoulder. You know, being completely transparent, um, it stunk. It was an unfortunate event, definitely, because I was it was middle of the season. You don't want to be out. You want to be playing with your teammates and everything. But I'm completely healed now. I went through. I was making sure that I didn't rush it at all because at that point I was kind of like, I think I'm going to enter the portal. So I don't want to get somewhere and not have a fully healed shoulder because I was trying to rush it to come back. So, um, shoulder's healthy. I'm working out fine again. So I'll be hitting the ground running come January, and then I'll definitely be in spring ball.
Cool. Yeah, that was my follow-up question is when you were planning on enrolling and whether or not you'd be able to participate in spring practice. So yeah, that's great. And like you said, the tight end room's going to be kind of empty. You had the two transfers, and then you had Travion Kenyon, who also retired, and then Nate Atkins, who is out of eligibility. So
Yeah.
I'm sure that they're going to be leaning on you pretty early there. Um, what part of your game do you think the Gamecock fans should look forward to seeing most? Because obviously, in your time in Florida with the injury and everything, you haven't gotten a ton of college snaps. So, for people that are unfamiliar, like what should people be excited about?
Well, I mean, for me and for the coaching staff, I'm very excited because I can do both. I can put my nose in there and block, and I can also be outside and run routes. So really the Gamecock fans, they don't really care about the whole blocking aspect. They're looking for the big flashy plays. So I guess that's it. Stretching the field, catching passes, scoring touchdowns. That's what they should be looking forward to most.
Hey, I tell you, if they were paying attention, though, Nate Atkins, who stepped in this year, really in a major way blocking,
Oh yeah.
was a a crucial aspect of winning versus Tennessee and versus Clemson. So maybe they are excited about the blocking, and they
Yeah.
should be.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think will be your biggest challenge in this transition from Florida to South Carolina? I know you grew up in Jacksonville too, right? So it's a little bit of a change in environment.
Yeah. I mean, there's all sorts of things. I'm leaving. I've had the same roommates for 2 years, and I've been in the same locker room with these guys for 2 years, and now I'm going to a completely different locker room. So I mean, that's one of them. Not being familiar with my roommate situation. Um, I'd say that is what it is. You kind of get thrown into the fire and you get used to everybody really quick, which I'm not really worried about that. I'd say the biggest thing is the transition from afternoon practice to morning practice because Florida was an afternoon practice team and South Carolina is a morning practice team. So I don't really think that that's going to be that big of a challenge for me. But those are the only two things that I could even think of.
Sure. Yeah, I actually didn't realize that most teams, or yeah, that most teams didn't practice in the morning.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're preparing for an eventual professional career, I'm sure that is actually pretty helpful to get used to the morning practices.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts for Gamecock fans? Just, anybody that might be listening that's interested or wants to know a little more about you or anything?
Um, man, I don't know. I can't really think of much. All I can say is that I left the place that I was at because I knew that I'm a better player than my situation that I was in. And I'm just really excited to be here and to start working with these guys. And hopefully we can go win a ton of games next year. And come October 14th, it's going to be a bad game for those guys down south.
I'm sure South Carolina fans are very excited to hear that and see you on the field starting this spring. Thanks so much for speaking with us today, Nick. Until next time, this has been the Gamecock Scoop.com podcast. See you later.